Absolutely. Right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I guess I need to be up so I can talk. We're going to give everybody a few minutes
Sure.
to, we might need you to pull off your share screen so they can see your
Oh,
face first, because
okay.
they're probably, yeah.
Got it.
Give them about 15, 20 more seconds to pile in. Come on in, have a seat. Hope you brought your Starbucks with you. Of course, everybody's getting Starbucks these days, right? Can't remember the last time I had a Starbucks.
It's right around the corner for me, so I have to confess.
It's close to me too, but
Yeah. Right. Just make it at home. Where are you going? Nowhere.
well, and I've started drinking my coffee black these days, and Starbucks actually doesn't taste as good black as the coffee from my pot that I make. So,
Right.
yeah, you know what I'm saying, right?
And now you're sending Grace to college on what you saved at the Starbucks.
Absolutely. We absolutely could. My pot of coffee is like 50 cents. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, everybody. So happy to see you here. Hopefully you had an opportunity to see the governor, and we're going to now get a chance to chat with Trish this afternoon, or this morning. It's still morning, Marie, and hear about her journey as an author and as a mom. And I'm so excited about the material she's going to share today. I am not going to do an intro or read her bio or anything like that. Trish can share with you what she would like you to know before she talks. And if you want to read her bio, she has one in the speaker section on the landing page. You can go check that out. So I'm going to give her all her space to do her presentation today and turn it over to Trish. Thank you so much for being here, Trish, and talking with us today.
Hey, everybody. I wish I could be there in person to see you because I don't think anybody likes this format. But before I start, I just really want to thank Marie for inviting me here to speak and for her whole team. And Marie and Kathleen and I did a lot of late night emails just to try to figure this all out. So I appreciate that. And also seeing Commissioner Williams these last 2 mornings. This is really a woman who I know stands up for all of this work and has a real true heart for people who are suffering from substance abuse and mental health issues. And then, of course, all the way up to our governor. I mean, it helps when you have from the top down all this support. And the couple of years that I've been with all of you guys in this field and in this, project of helping people, I just can't believe the exponential growth, as the commissioner pointed out. So, anyway, I'm grateful to be here and I'm grateful to share my story with you, the story of Timbi, who you can see I brought with me up here to be my support. So, this is really a story about Timbi, but just to help you guys understand where, how it was born and where it came from. So, I don't just speak as sort of an academic from the outside saying, oh, this is, what we need to do. This is really about my story and my journey and something that I needed. So my heart is in it more than anything. So this is sort of my life's work, and I'm happy to share that with you. So one thing I will say is I can't hear anything, so I could just be standing here talking to myself, which my husband says I do quite often. But I know you're out there, and I'm a real interactive person. So I saw Deb Schultz give me a little shout out in the chat. So I just love to see if you know how to do little reactions or put a little smiley face, just something to let me know you're out there and you hear me and it's sort of making sense to you. So okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I know I saw that Will Taylor and Monty Burks were in at least the Remo. I don't know if you guys are here, but hi. So, and I don't know if you can still see me while I'm talking, but I'll try to keep my hand movements to a minimum and we'll just go to the PowerPoint. So today we're going to talk about Timbi Talks About Addiction. And I co-wrote this with my sister. Um, whoop, we're not getting an advance there of the slide. Okay. So Timbi, I originally wrote this book in 1992, which we'll get into further. And it was because my two kids needed something. I needed something to use to speak to my children about what was going on in our family. Their father suffered from substance abuse, and I needed something to talk to my kids about. I needed a tool to help me. And, there were books about everything: nighttime fears, becoming a big brother or sister, even going potty. But nobody was talking about the problem of addiction and the disease of addiction within a family system. And it was tearing us apart. But nobody would talk about it, especially with young children. And, I could have hugged Commissioner Williams when she said, if we don't address this issue with children, we're in for a big problem. And maybe if we do, we won't even see them in the recovery court. So this is about meeting and combating those ACEs as early as possible. But in 1992, that was not happening. So, back then when nobody wanted to publish the book, after a while, I just gave up. And this is long before the Google machine or, any way to do self-publishing. But as we all know, this epidemic is just getting worse. And so I reached out to my sister back in 2014, and she's a mental health counselor. And I asked her to collaborate with me to create this project. So let me start with, you guys all know this: addiction is a family disease. And it doesn't just affect the addict. And this was my false narrative that, well, if I could just fix my husband, I'm great. Like, I'm the good one, right? And I could get, everybody would be fine if we could just fix the addict. Well, we all know that that's not how that works. And children, you just think, oh, the kids don't know anything, just, they don't realize what's going on. And we know that's not true. And I stand here today in the eye of the hurricane of my family tree. So this is one of the polling questions that Marie was gonna put up. I don't know if it's popping up, and I don't know if you're answering, because all I can see is my PowerPoint.
I am launching the poll now.
Oh, there you go. Okay. This is just to see if you guys are paying attention. So, my grandparents were alcoholics. Both of my grandfathers were alcoholics. So my parents were, I don't know if I can switch off this screen, Maria, while people are still polling, but
I don't know either.
okay, there
Yes,
we go.
you can.
Yes, you can. And the poll still stays up. We all are learning as we go. Thanks for learning with us. So both of my parents are adult children of alcoholics. You can see us here, cute little family in the 60s. My sister and I in way too short dresses, but all the isms of the disease were incorporated into the dysfunction of my family growing up. There were family secrets. Even though there wasn't active addiction or alcoholism taking place in our home, actually, you guys did a great job and got that right. Norman Rockwell was the answer. So hold on, it's a little weird, guys. Just work, because once that's up, you can't move. But because I was raised in that kind of an environment, I was drawn always to the bad guy, right? To the bad boy. And when I married my husband, he was not an addict. He was not in any active addiction. I just thought, we're going to have the greatest life. I mean, we were so in love. He was such a great guy. And he was smart. He was funny. He was kind. He was giving. I mean, he was just like this wonderful person. He was a police officer and a fireman. He was a person who worked in the communities to help people who were struggling. Um, he was doing Flip That House. And first of all, I always laugh at this picture when I see it, because was I ever that young? Yes, I was. But he just had huge dreams. We were buying and flipping houses, and we were just like, I mean, the future was so bright. He loved his children with all his heart. They were his life, his beating heart. This is a guy, he was Italian, you know, it was just like everybody was scooped up in hugs. And in, you know, when I look at these pictures also, like by the time I was 6 months pregnant with my son Nick, who's now, he'll be 34, he went to his first in-house rehabilitation, 28-day in treatment. And you know, when I look back now, I think, oh, we just have to get him to realize, you know, that this is a problem, and then he'll just stop it. But this, even though everybody looks all happy there, it was not all happy. And so he probably tried through he was with the fire department at the time. I think he went through about 8 rehabs. They were so patient. And this is, you know, in the emerging times of, oh, it's 28 days and that's it. And you go out, and, you know, there was no halfway house. There was no family, no real family program. Nothing was being taught to my kids or things for me to talk to my children about. So we finally did the geographic fix, and we moved to Tennessee, which the good thing is here I am in Tennessee. But the addiction, of course, came with us. And eventually I had to get out of that relationship, and my kids and I, but you can see, these are the ages. I'm just going to go back so you can see. I mean, that this is the age of my kids when our lives were just crumbling in on us, and I had nothing, no way to talk to them about this situation. So, and I was always looking for ways to talk to them. I was very open about it, and I knew that something had to be addressed. Like you had to have some little book of something that acknowledges the reality of their lives. But there was nothing. And this is, again, before Google, but even, you know, speaking to their pediatrician, to our minister, to, I mean, no one, you know, people would just like, you know, I don't know, well, that's terrible, or we'll pray for you or whatever. But this doesn't help to arm children with a defense for themselves. So I took the matter into my own hands, and I wrote the first little story. And I thought, because they were so young, I wanted it to be in rhyme. We were reading a lot of Dr. Seuss at the time. And this was one of the original drafts. And it was just called My Daddy Has a Problem, because, you know, I didn't know that I should say the word addiction. And you know, the kids just knew, this is my daddy. He's so big and so strong, but there's something wrong. And then in my goals from 1992, I mean, this is like such a long time ago, right? Was to open the communication, teach kids that it's not their fault. And really, I wanted to end the stigma, because I felt like we couldn't say anything about what was going on. When my kids were in preschool, I mean, no one was talking about this. No one was acknowledging. And I felt like we were the only ones. We were the only people in the world, which was so isolating and devastating and shaming. I mean, there was so much, I felt so much shame. And I know that that was translated to my kids, right? Because that's what happens. They absorb everything that we are putting out there. And that's what I was putting out there, because that's what society was giving us. So what I crack up about in this part is, you can see like all my scratches out, and, you know, go up here and do that. But I really believe that validating what they were feeling was like the first step in providing some kind of healing, you know, because you don't feel crazy. And you know, I didn't want to teach them to not trust their instinct, right? So like, they know something's not right, But if all the adults are saying, "Oh, you're fine, just do this, just do that," that's creating like messed up signals so that they can't trust themselves. And but just as a sign of the times, I recommended checking your yellow pages. So I don't know. I don't know if I had a poll, but I would ask a question. Does anybody even remember yellow pages? So this was the first printed version that I just printed on my printer, which took a lot of work because you had to do the front page, back page, whatever. And this is then what I sent out to publishers to try to say, let's get this information out there. Um, you know, kids need to hear this, or families need to hear this. But no one wanted to touch this book. I did hear back from about 4 different publishers, and they just were like, you know, this is not something that's appropriate for young readers. And again, this just kept piling on to the stigma and the shame and the isolation and the separation, all things that are the worst possible thing for a family going through this, walking through this disease. But as we all know, the disease doesn't go away just because you don't talk about it. And it has had a deep, long lasting impact on my family. So when I said I was in the eye of the hurricane, so I had from my grandparents to now my grandchildren, and I'm watching the generational effect of the disease and how it's impacted all of our lives. I mean, I keep using that word, but that's what it does. So this is the last picture of my kids with their dad. And he died of a drug overdose in 2009. And, for so long, I expected that call or, anticipated it because of his lifestyle. I mean, he would sort of come in and out of recovery. But I can tell you, I'll never forget where I was when I did get the call. It was over. And, his suffering was over. I mean, we weren't married anymore, but he's still the father of my children, and my children, they that that never goes away. Um, you can cope with it and you can deal with it, but and we all know there. I don't think there's a single person in this room who doesn't know someone anyway who hasn't been directly impacted by an overdose. So these are the horrible statistics from the CDC. I'm always struck by when we see the coronavirus vaccine. Now, of course, that's been in a condensed period of time, but in the same way, addiction is no respecter of men, right? It's young, old, black, white, immigrant, rich, poor. It takes so many lives. So we see 800,000 people. And here was it's a shocker to me when you say 130 people die every day. If we had an airplane, that's about what a 737 holds. If an airplane a day were falling from the sky, the world would end. We would like stop what we were doing and be like, we have to fix this, right? So, it's not going away. And these are probably like, unfortunately, like low estimates at this point now, what the pandemic has done to this. But here's the main, like a shocking number, and that's the 8.9 million children impacted by at least one parent's substance abuse. And I know that the commissioner and the governor talked earlier about their work within the foster care system. Like 99% of these kids are coming into the system because of addiction, and the median age of foster care is 7. So that's always, such a depressing page. And not that it like this gets any better, but I pulled this for a presentation in August, and it showed that 411 people had died of a drug overdose. And you can see I updated that. We lost 619 lives to a drug overdose last year. And fentanyl, and the reason I have this picture is if you look at that, the amount of fentanyl that it takes to kill someone, or just those little granules, And, you know, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was like such a small amount that would kill you. So anyway, that was interesting to learn for me. And so as the opioid epidemic is, you know, back in the, you know, really in the headlines, not back in the headlines, but, you know, making national news and everybody's talking about it. And it's like, oh, wow, you know, this is something that we need to deal with. Um, you know, in some way it was validating for me, but then it also made me realize, hey, you know what, Trish, like what you went through, what you needed, what you wanted, this is your opportunity to give that to somebody else. And I thought, hey, you know what? If there's one family who can read this book and feel better and not feel alone, that's worth it to me, to whatever I have to do to make that happen. And so this was the original My Daddy Has a Problem. But when I worked with my sister, we worked together to really update and enhance the message and have it be even more powerful than just, you know, the original, like rhyming, like, hey, look, this is something that's maybe happening in your life. Um, so we decided to name the character Timbi. People asked me, where did that name come from? And I said, I don't know, maybe God. You know, I was standing in my kitchen and I was like, it needs to have a name, needs to be something cute, something, you know, non-gender, and just Timbi came into my head. So I did a little Google search and nobody else had a Timbi out there. So Timbi was born in my kitchen. So after we had the words, then it has to be illustrated. And this was an early prototype of Timbi. And then this was the first color Timbi of the one that we decided to go with in the book. It's just kind of fun for me to see. It's like the birth of something. And here's our illustrator. And I think I have another polling question. I want you to just take a look at this young woman. And this is our illustrator, Mackenzie. And you can see in the bottom picture. So the polling question is, can you guess how old that Mackenzie is? And that, I guess Marie will put that poller up if, yep, there she is. So the, if you look down there, these are all watercolor paintings. And again, this was very important to me, that the book just be beautiful and engaging for children, that they're just drawn into the story. Like, you know, I had a lot of books for my kids when they were little, and it just seemed like, you know, what I would call like the fancy books or whatever. They all had a little stuffed animal to go with the story, and they were all these beautifully intricate, gorgeous photos. And I thought, my kids who need this are going to have the best. So, yes, you guys were right. She was 19 years old. And I'm just blown away that this young woman, so each of these pictures are watercolor. Um, and if we had to change anything, she had to start over from the beginning and repaint them. So when you do get to see the book, you can really appreciate that, her work and her passion. And the next book, and she's been pushing us to do this, is she wants to write, Timbi talks about mental illness. As you can see, she lost an aunt and a cousin to suicide. And, you know, it's just devastating. And kids know what's going on in that too, with mental health. Okay, now there we go. So finally, in October of 2018, there was Timbi. And I don't know if you noticed, but when we started this project, we didn't have gray hair, but that's okay. So that was Timbi, the original Timbi, and the book came out in October. And then came the work of letting the world know that Timbi was here to help. So this Timbi is truly a combination of my sister and my life, our hearts, our passion. Janet is huge in into mindfulness techniques and breathing. And she's always sending me like little yoga cards to do with my granddaughters. And she worked in a hospital with really, really, really emotionally challenged kids. And she just proved over and over that even just stopping, sitting, connecting, turning into your body, tuning into your body, and listening to what it has to say can just like change things instantly. And then to take a breath. And sometimes people think, oh, these kids, they don't, what are they going to, they do, they know what's going on. So this is just a little, because what we need to address is the ACEs. So I just have this little slide to just watch a little bit about ACEs.
My parents don't understand. All the drinking and fighting means I'm scared. I'd like a cuddle, perhaps a bedtime story, but mostly I'd like them to stop shouting at me. And sometimes they hit me. Feeling scared every day and not feeling loved or wanted will change me for the rest of my life. Later, I'll have problems at school, problems with alcohol, and I'll get in trouble with the police. What's happening to me right now means I'm more likely to have serious health problems in middle age and die sooner than I should.
So that was just a little illustration. My sister's husband is British, so she put that in there. But we don't always think about the longer term impact, but I mean, we're starting to, and like we're understanding now, if we don't deal with ACEs now, we're going to be dealing with these children later down the road. I work with the National Alliance for Drug Endangered Children, and had a call, and one of the officers there was saying, when I used to go in on these like welfare checks or these raids, he said I would just be stepping over these kids. I'm getting to the job, which is to sort of make the arrest or whatever. He said, and one day it just like clicked. He was like, if we don't do something about these kids, it's them that I'm going to be arresting down the road. So anyway, we're getting it now. Just give me a second. There we go. So what are ACEs? It's verbal, mental, sexual, and physical abuse. It's the alcohol or substance abuse. It's incarceration. It's parental separation. And you guys know this in the recovery court. And I do too. My daughter was in jail for 8.5 months, and their father had them for the majority of the time, but we had them during what would have been her parenting time. And, they didn't talk to her or see her. I didn't feel like bringing them down to the jail for a visit was like the appropriate thing at that time. And when they talk to her, it says, you have a call from an inmate. So you're like, okay. And then like trying to explain, like, what's an inmate, Lulu? Fun times. So, and then evidence is showing that these children, and again, I watch it with my grandchildren, perform poorly in school, become involved in crime, and develop antisocial behaviors. So this is a slide that my sister and I just started working with these guys, Echo Training, and they do attachment theory, but they also just have a lot of really interesting, I feel like they pull all this information and pull it together into a bite that we can eat. So this is just the impacts of trauma, the loss of safety, the shame, the disassociation. And, I watch it with my girls, the grand girls, the loss of the physical connection to the body. Especially with Vivian, I can see where her eyes sort of go to the side, and I know she's not there with us. And then for me, of course, it came out to reenactment, where you recreate the childhood dynamic. Um, and, you want something different, but you're just getting the same result. And I think I have a poll for this one, Marie, and it's in this study, in a CDC study, they were talking about how um, how many of the participants reported having some kind of an adverse childhood experience, and when you think about it, I don't know anybody who has zero. Maybe you do. Introduce me to them. I would like to meet a person who just had like a perfect childhood. And and so I've heard other people say my ACEs score doesn't determine my outcome. So it's not a sentence of, oh well, if you had this then you're going to be that. But it's just important to be aware how common this is for children. And if we know that certain kids are experiencing, I mean, we know that a kid who's in a home where substance abuse is happening, even if they're not there. I mean, my husband was not in the home doing drugs. He just didn't come home. So he just wasn't, he was gone for that day. And he only did it once a month or every 3 weeks. I mean, then the disease progressed. But, so it's all different. But let me tell you, the impact is the same. So yeah, I mean, most of you guys have 4 or more. And, that's what I feel like brings us into this work, right? So we all had a personal experience with this and we want to help. So I appreciate all of you guys.
These polls are anonymous too. I just want everybody to know that.
Oh, yeah. I only see a number. I mean, I just see a percentage.
I mean, even on the back admin side, they're anonymous.
Good to know. So answer truthfully, right? So then this I just thought was a great little graphic about how to survive trauma. And, we actually hit all of these in with the Timbi book. Really self-soothing, being able to find a way to calm down. When I go into schools and talk to kids, I say to them, look, it doesn't end when you're a kid. Once you become a grown-up, it's not like you don't have trauma and difficulty and situations that you need to find ways to calm down and make yourself feel okay. And they always, I see sort of like, interesting. I thought, once you're an adult, you make all your own decisions. So seeking community, I can speak for myself. Al-Anon has saved my life. Being in a room with other people who know exactly how I feel, and they don't have to come over and say, I know exactly how you feel, because I'm going to hear their story, by being there and listening and having that community. And resilience and telling kids, you're going to be okay. And we'll hear in just a minute, those of you who haven't heard the story, and to get active. Timbi tells them to go outside and play and be silly. And it's be okay with not being okay. Like, even though times can be hard, you are okay. So these are all like critical tools for us to arm these kids with, so they can, make it through this, right? Okay, so how does Timbi talk about ACEs? You acknowledge it's a disease, you validate, you assure them it's not their fault. That was the biggest thing. Children are little narcissistic balls walking around, and they think they control the sun rising and setting. So of course they think their parents' problem is their fault because they think they do everything. So that was like a key thing. And even though you say it, it's still something that, I feel like gets in the DNA. So that's a really important message. And you affirm their inherent goodness. Just hearing, you are good, you are loved, you are strong as can be. This is just an important sentence. So how does Timbi help? Timbi teaches that your body will talk to you. So listen to your body. Then we provide practical tools. And when kids learn this, we've seen it happen. You can watch a child, even I do. And I tell the kids when I'm in school or at other programs reading to kids, we all let out and then take a breath, and whew, just makes me feel better too. So then this was just an interesting little, it was from the New York Times. I thought, because it's really about resilience. And, for me, it's an interesting experiment, although it's my children. I have a son and a daughter, and the son had one outcome and the daughter had another outcome. So, how did two kids going through the exact same situation turn out so differently? And this to me was sort of, I loved both of my children, of course, but whether somebody feels that love or not, we really don't have control over. But this was just an interesting point to me. But resilience is the key factor for all of us in any circumstance, whatever you're going through. I mean, there are times I have to say to myself, I didn't just write Timbi and say, okay, everybody, here it is. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of follow-up, and people are like, what is this? What do I do with it? I don't know how to use it in my program. And there are days that I have to say to myself, like, Trish, you got this. Like, you can do this. This is like, you're okay. Anyway, so grounding tools are important for all of us, and especially kids. So now we're going to listen to the story.
But not like a cold where you cough.
Sorry, guys.
Hi, I'm Trish, and I'm here today with my granddaughters,
Maddie and Vivian.
and I'm here to read a book that I co-wrote with my sister called Timbi Talks About Addiction. My name is Timbi. I have something to share about Daddy's addiction. Please pull up a chair. I've learned that addiction is called a disease, but not like a cold where you cough or you sneeze. A disease is not something a person would pick. It could be your mommy or daddy who's sick. Addiction can happen with pills, drugs, or drinking. When addiction takes over, it changes their thinking. My friend has a mommy so loving and sweet. When I go to her house, there's always a treat. But sometimes my friend can seem frightened or sad, and I wonder if her mom does things like my dad. You see, with my dad, he's so big and so strong, you might look at him and think nothing is wrong. But when Daddy starts drinking, things start to change. He starts to sound weird and he starts to act strange. When Daddy acts weird, it's scary for me. Sometimes he does things I don't want to see. Other days, he's just gone. That bothers me too. When he leaves, I feel worried and sad. Wouldn't you? When I'm feeling like that, worried or scared, I find someone to talk to, someone who cares. This someone, like mommy or teacher, will say, "You're not the cause of Dad's problems. No way." When grown-ups have problems, they're not from a kid. They are in charge of the things that they did. It's not my fault. What great news to hear. Thinking I caused it was my biggest fear. Sometimes the mixture of feelings I've had get jumbled inside me as sad, bad, and mad. My head starts to hurt and my insides feel tight. That's one way my body says, something's not right. It's funny to think of my body this way, but it's actually true. It has something to say. When my body is speaking, I've learned to tune in and find ways to let go of my feelings within. The first thing I've learned that can help me calm down is to take some deep breaths as I sit on the ground. I breathe in, I'm a mountain so tall and so wide. I breathe out, I am still and feel more calm inside. I breathe in, I'm a tree with roots deep in the ground. I breathe out, I am strong, I feel safe, I feel sound. Something else that can help is to go out and play. It helps me let go of the sad, mad, bad day. I can sing a loud song while I dance like a clown. I can go punch my pillow or jump up and down. I can play with my friends or go throw a ball, but not at a person, of course, at a wall. I've learned that my sadness and anger aren't bad. They're perfectly natural feelings to have. With help from safe people, I'm learning each day that even though times can be hard, I'm okay. I am good, I am loved, I am strong as can be. These are the things trusted people teach me. These ideas that I've learned, I wanted to share because I know how you feel and I really do care. They'll work great for you if you try them, you'll see. And here's a big hug from your new friend, Timbi. Thanks for listening. To learn more about the story, please visit timbitalks.com.
Thanks so much. Okay, so I think we have another polling question, and it was, do you find that helpful to hear the video? I think it's polls. There we go. Right. Was it helpful to watch the book being read? And I guess I would ask another question that you can like drop in the chat or something. Do you think it needs to be sooner, or I don't know. I mean, I know the story, so, but I don't know if it would be helpful. Okay. So
Be sooner, like in your presentation sooner, or
right, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Drop it in the PowerPoint, sooner. Like, should we open with hearing the story? So, okay, it looks like yes, it was helpful to watch the book being read. First of all, I like it because those girls are so cute.
They are adorable.
Right. And Vivian now has all her teeth are in, so it's very cute to see that little toothless wonder. So the these pictures of these kids, like every time you guys I get to see kids, which of course in this pandemic has not been good. But I did get to, and Deborah was with me, Deborah Schultz. Just when you see these kids and you see their reaction to Timbi, it's like, okay, however hard it is, and this little boy, Caleb, I want him to be my child because those dimples, I can't even take it. Let's see, this isn't. So, here's the thing, guys. We're all in this, right? We're all understanding that there's 9 million kids floating around out there that need help. They need support. They need someone reaching out to them. That's just an impossible number to comprehend. And my friend Tabitha Curtis, who a lot of you know, she'll be like, our goal is every kid, every child. And I always look at her and I'm like, I love it. I love you. I love that, that promise. But, until we can clone ourselves, there just are not enough of us. So what Timbi does is he helps bridge that gap, right? So we can't all be there with all of those kids, but we can actually clone Timbi. So, and the message of Timbi, and the comfort of Timbi. So Timbi remains with the child. He's a constant companion, this continual comfort and a reminder of the coping skills that they have. And one of the greatest things that I have heard back from people, and I always get goosebumps when I say this, is like a parent will say, Mommy, Timbi knows exactly how I feel. And do you know what? For me, that means a lot to me when I know somebody understands exactly how I feel. So imagine this kid who's like feeling very isolated, especially now in the pandemic, but to feel a sense of community is to belong. And that's also key too, because then you're like, oh, well, there are other people going through what I'm going through. I just can't tell you how much that means to me. And I know for these kids too. Here are some of my friends who already have Timbi hard at work. You guys here at TRCP. Some of you will see Cumberland Heights. There's the 4JDRS. There are other recovery courts using this, and of course with the National Alliance of Drug Endangered Children. And also Timbi is coming into safe baby courts. They are scheduled to get 1,200 Timbi sets into the 12 safe baby courts. And also we're trying to figure out some way to get them in through DCS to kids in foster care. So like send up prayers for that. Here's some more wonderful orgs that are using Timbi. So just to kind of go back to how this was with my family, this is a split screen of my son on his first day of kindergarten when I came to pick him up from Walton Ferry School in Sumner County. And this was the day that I dropped off Timbi sets to Walton Ferry School. Timbi is in every elementary and middle school with the school counselor, with the nurse, with the PE teachers. And this just would have changed our lives if Timbi was there for my son to come and say, guess what, mommy, Timbi knows how I feel. Instead, Nick came home with a little red ribbon that says, I know how to teach daddy how to not do drugs. He just has to say no. I don't know if y'all remember the Just Say No campaign. So this was my son on his first day of kindergarten. Can we just get a little, oh, so cute. And this,
oh, he's so cute.
Thank you, Ray. And this is my son, now it's a little while ago, but he was working at the White House and had a very big job up there. So, people do recover. They do come out okay. And this you'll see, I don't know if Mary Linden is on this call, but you can see Mary Linden wrote us a wonderful recommendation for Timbi and lots of other great. And there's Janelle from Sumner County. So just to kind of wrap up, what are the ways that Timbi teaches kids how to feel better? And it teaches them that there are important people in their life. And I can tell you for my granddaughters, this is part of my story that, here I am, like all aware, I'm writing this book. They read this book all the time, and they were having visitation with their mother, but I didn't see my daughter. She isolated and, sort of rejected me from her life. And so I didn't know what was going on with them. Nobody said anything to me. A couple of little things started to come out, but the girls did not tell me what was happening. But finally, one day, Maddie, my older granddaughter, was brought to school very late by her mother, and she just had a meltdown, and she spoke to her teacher. And I envision that scene of the teacher, being, and it's a wonderful, wonderful woman, but then she called DCS, the teacher did, and which was the right thing to do. But and Maddie told me, she said, Timbi talked to his teacher. So it does. I mean, I can tell you it actually, it works. I mean, it worked in my family, and to think that, that helped my own grandchildren, right? So it's a beautiful thing. Learning to listen to your body. Vivian, the younger one, I have to say to her all the time when she's like starting to act like a crazy person, I'm like, okay, let's think about what's going on. Like, how's your body feeling? Where are you feeling? Is it in your stomach, in your heart, in your chest, in your legs? To also remember to be silly, and you're a kid, like the weight of the world, you don't have to carry it right now. Like, And then there they are, the two little granddaughters. And before, I will tell you guys this, every single Timbi gets a hug from me and or them, and they were helping me pack up some Timbis. And we do send them out with love. So now we have added, since we started this, there is a coloring activity book that, we had a lot of feedback that people felt that this would be helpful to reinforce some of the messages. And in my mind, what was important about this was sometimes if a kid is distracted doing something else, they can be hearing something without having to be like, listen to me, I'm telling you, they can just be coloring. And some of these are just like silly activities, but the whole text is conveying important, helpful information. And I did also get to add the grand girls' names in there again.
Trish, there's been some feedback about the coloring book and how great it is in the chat too. It's actually a little ways back here now. I can't find it, but
okay,
somebody talked.
Yeah, I can't.
And how great it is.
Oh, good, thank you. So they have it, right. So this is, one of the things was where we're saying it's funny to think of your body having something to say, and so we tried to name some of these things. And again, Mackenzie did the drawings on this, and is she amazing or what? So the coloring book just adds on to that. And, people can like make copies of one page if that, to use in a class or whatever. And then here's our newest little venture is our little tiny Timbi. And I think on this slide, I think I have a, can I get an aw? But I know you're all going, aw. So,
Aww.
thank you. This, we added a little hook on top so people could add a little, to put on a backpack or something. But
yeah, backpack.
Right. But, one of this came out of, there's a foster program in Grant County, Indiana that has a bunch of Timbis, and they were saying, the kids wanted to bring Timbi to school but they were afraid that someone would take it. And after a certain point, the big Timbi is too much. So we were like, let's make a little tiny Timbi so he can be in your pocket, and there's also Timbi pencils. So this is my family today, a little longer hair, shorter hair ago. And it's not picture perfect, my family. My daughter is severely struggling, and I have to practice my program every single day. And my granddaughters don't see their mother, and I'm watching this impact their lives every day, and it's a painful experience, but I know that they have tools, and I know that they know they're loved, and it's not their fault. But I'm telling you, it's just the generational disease and impacting every single person in that family. That's my sweet husband, Pat, who doesn't have an addiction. I don't know how I finally did that.
You have a beautiful family, Trish.
Thank you. So, I mean, this is so from my heart, and I cry every time I say this, but anyone who does anything to help a child is a hero to me. And that was Fred Rogers, who I think was truly an angel walking among us. But that's all of you guys helping these families. That is what Recovery Court is about. That is what you do. So you're all angels walking on earth. So here's the full little new set. We got new little cute bags. And again, this was very intentional for children to feel like, oh my gosh, how fun would this be to get? Like, you're the special kids. And again, I hate to keep calling Deb out, but we saw, I mean, these kids all wanted it. These children are so like desperate for something to latch onto, but to see these kids, they were like the special one, right? I mean, they got the Timbi, and then all the kids, they want to have a parent in trouble. But anyway, So it's just a sweet little package, and that was very intentional on my part because I don't want these kids to feel like, oh yeah, here's this whatever. No, you are special, and this is a message for you. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have.
So we have like 18 minutes, and I want to let you know there's so much going on in the chat, Trish. I want to share with you, and
Okay.
some questions. People are, people that are aware of Timbi are talking about how awesome it is, about wanting to get it in their space, reiterating that it would be great to have one about mental health. And also somebody's asked you if you'd thought about doing one for older kids, like your preteen, teenager. So I don't know if that's something you've thought about and can answer that question or not. You look like
Sure.
maybe you've talked about it.
Sure. So I'm also saying, how do you order? There's the website, and I'm going to be in our little Remo space, which blessedly Marie and Kathleen, like we've been up there a little bit, just playing around up there. But it's timbitalks.com, and nonprofits get a 30% discount. So just like reach out to me. It's Trish at timbitalks.com. I think that my information's on a whiteboard in the but Marie has my information. Please share among all of you. But so to speak to doing it for older kids. So, of course, my heart was, the very young children, because there's nothing for them, right? And we already had one that even talked about like the parent going to a rehab or a meeting, or just some, sort of expanding on what that means and what's happening in your family. So yes, I mean, that is for sure in the works. And this is what I say, because then people are like, oh, you need a book on this, this, this. Y'all have no idea how hard it is to get something like this done. I mean, this was literally 4 years of my life of just writing the book, because you write it and each word has to be impactful. I didn't want the rhymes to sound sort of just like off the cuff or forced or anything. And to get that rhyming, my sister was like the taskmaster with a mallet, pounding out the rhythm of it. She'd be like, Trish, like, you have no rhythm. I'm like, girl, I grew up disco dancing. Okay, I have rhythm. But anyway, we are, for sure, I would love to have 10 different books: mental illness, incarceration, for older kids, and then even high school. And I will say, in the book world, the way they parse things out is it's usually one, 1 to 3, 3 to 8, and then 8 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had 3 to 8 originally on this book, we had a lot of feedback because again, we would send this out to a lot of people and then just ask. We were soliciting the feedback, and they said, look, a lot of these kids, a lot of them in the foster care system, and anybody who's experiencing addiction in the home, their lives are disrupted, and they're not necessarily on par with like learning and reading. And so they really suggested that we up it to 12. And I will say this, when I've gone into schools, and also programs where the kids are younger, but let's say from kindergarten to like 5th grade, I think was the oldest that they brought. And I'm reading to the full population. It's not like, oh, this child we know, we've identified. It's just everybody is hearing that story. And really interestingly, it was like the 11, 12-year-old kids who, man, they are so smart. They know everything. They see everything. And Yeah, so I mean, I feel like this does cover like an older age than you might first imagine, and they're not really offended by, you know, kind of the rhyming thing. We really try to make it like not obnoxious because I hate when I read a book that's like house, mouth. I mean, you know, it fits in some places, but so yeah, for sure. And anybody who has some ideas, email me and we'll get started because this is how we do it. It's just like over FaceTime and writing on in a Google Doc and conferring.
So there's a question and a couple comments. Like Tracy says that their participants want to know how to talk to their kids and what to say once they're clean and sober. One of the things they want to do is reunite with their kids and know how. So, you know, I can see how it would be really a valuable tool for the parents to approach those conversations and give their kids
Absolutely.
some resources and tools, you know, in an easy way that's not overly burdensome as a person trying to remember how to parent, right? We also
Exactly.
have a question from Derek. He wants to present this to his school board and his local DCS and Carl Perkins Center. How does he do that? He just needs to reach out to you, or
Just
what's the
email me and we'll set it up. I mean, that's what I do. And I mean, obviously I don't do this whole like presentation unless it's at a conference. And I can shorten it up or, you know, whatever, we can meet and talk. And um, so just y'all reach out to me. And to what you were saying, Marie, you know, one of the other things that we know is that the parent bond, right, is critical for creating that resilience for the child to feel loved, to combat the ACEs, and it makes the parent feel good. And even though it's a little bit harder for the parent in addiction to sort of have to say, um, you know, on the page where, but when daddy starts drinking, things start to change. Um, you know, that's hard to face for themselves to see it. But the feedback that we have gotten from folks in recovery is, you know, they acknowledge that yes, this is what happened and things did change, but now they feel confident in their recovery of who they are and who they can be for their kid. And so I've watched it. And I will tell you this too, another sort of incredible, heartwarming, um, you know, sort of affirmation for me is when I have grown people, men and women, come up in tears to me saying, I wish I had Timbi when I was little. You know, thank you for writing this. I want a Timbi. So it's not just for kids anymore, right? Whoever it brings comfort to. I feel good when I hug Timbi. I'm going to go ahead and get me a little Timbi hug right now. You know, sometimes before a presentation, I get a little, I feel a little nervous. So Timbi and I have a little hug.
so this is I'm gonna a couple more things because we have some time. This is an amazing idea, and I wish I had something like this as a child. Is this a national program? I'm located in Pennsylvania, and I have several community connections with school districts, and I also work as a coach at the high school and youth levels. I would love to bring this too.
Yes,
So
I mean, it is, you know, we're with national organizations. NACOA is the National Association of Adult Children of Alcoholics, you know, the National Drug Endangered Children, and even the, you know, the National Recovery Corps professionals. I mean, Timbi goes all, and actually it's also in the UK because NACOA has a UK, so he's international. This is an international traveler right here.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So we have recorded this session, by the way, for those of you asking about being able to share this information in her presentation. And Trish she has a booth at the exhibitor hall. So you can go into the exhibit booth and networking space. I can't remember if you're on the first or second floor, Trish. Do you know?
Floor.
She's on the second floor. She's got booth space there. She's spending some time over there, so you can go over there and chat with her.
12 to 2, I think.
During the little bingo section that's coming up here after the next thing. So you can go and chat with her there. Trish, everybody loved the pacing, by the way.
Oh.
Lots of feedback about the pacing, and that the timing was perfect. And there's actually a lot of good stuff in the chat that I don't have time to share with you.
Okay.
Just everybody loving the presentation. So
does that go away? The chat, we won't know.
Actually, I think I can copy this. I think we'll have a record of the chat, and I can share it with you so you can see. Yeah, I'm being told I can save the chat. I think I have it set. I think I have it in settings where I can save the chat. So we're good.
Have to say, you guys, thank you so much for, I mean, I was slightly flipped out about doing this because I am like a in-person people energy person, and anybody in this group who knows me knows I like a hug. I like to feel y'all and get the, the back and forth. But Marie made this painless. Thank you so much, Marie. I mean, you've been amazing to, we did a little practice Zoom, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, when it actually does it, I'm just looking at my PowerPoint. So anyway, I just.
When you have an in-person audience right behind you too, so.
Right, that's true. I did bring my friends just for support. So you guys again are just doing incredible work. It's impacted my life, and I'm just very excited to see the advances that are being made by all of you, all of your hard work. It does pay off. It's making a difference. And I'm just so honored to be a part of it, to bring some kind of resource like the governor was talking about, and the commissioner and all of you, finding something, right, that is a resource that we can bring. Like, let's not have a meeting about it. Let's do something. Like, you know what? If a kid hugs this, they're going to feel better. I don't care, what. It's not because I made it. It's not, but you just look at that face and you feel better.
I love it.
So
thank you so much, Trish. We appreciate it. It was great.
Y'all, thank you.
You could hear the clapping. Yeah. It's happening. You can't hear it, but it's happening. Okay, so if you're joining us at 11:15 with Dr. Ortega, we'll see you there. Otherwise, we are finished. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you later.